the numbers aren't enormous to get a really good result.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur or innovator every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, founder and podcast producer at Max Podcasting, and you can reach me at max@maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life and use it as a business building tool. This is episode 119, which I guess is my second favorite number after 19. And today's guest is Paul Thomson. Paul is an online course creator and the creator of the Online Course Creators Hub. He knows everything there is to know about creating an online course, and he's helped his clients create courses that have brought in over $2 million in sales. He's been featured in Forbes, Thrive Global, and Thinkific, and has spent a ton of time traveling the world as a digital nomad. In this episode, we dive into how to create an online course, what it's like being a digital nomad, and some tips for that, and why it's helpful to be super strict about your own calendar. Before we get to Paul, super excited to announce that this week's Wild Business Growth Podcast episode is featured as a podcast of the week on Dorm. Dorm is a podcasting app designed for lifelong learners like you. It's super cool looking, and they've found a way to kind of gamify podcast listening and discovering new podcasts. It's a really cool app. I'm enjoying it, and I think you would too. You can find it on the App Store, and of course, it is free to use. Now to Sir Paul. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Paul Thomson, the online course creation extraordinaire, coming to us from probably a different place every time you talk to him. Paul, thanks for joining. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks, Max. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm doing good, mate. It's a little bit chilly here today up in Edinburgh, but yeah, it's doing good.
That's good. I think you've set a record for probably longest flights in the world, so we'll have to get to some of that. But this is really neat. Shout out to our mutual friend, Stephanie Liu, the live streaming extraordinaire, for introducing us in the first place. You know, there's some overlap in terms of video, I'm sure, but before we get into online course creation, there was a time in your life where you thought you might be a school principal.
Yeah, man. So I had been teaching for about, 7 years, and I was given the opportunity, I went up through kind of the leadership ranks, and I was teaching head of the arts, so all the arts department, and got into kind of educational leadership, because where it was when I was teaching were the introduction of laptops and computers in the classroom. And I was seeing, these teachers get handed 30 laptops in a classroom and just not know how to use them properly. It ended up just being a replacement for a pen and paper. And so in my naive, young stamina, I thought, mate, I'm going to go and revolutionize the education industry. If I'm going to teach teachers how to use, these computers in the classroom. And so I went and I was speaking on stages around Australia and things like that. Did some work with Google and Microsoft. And so going up into the top of the ranks, they said, applied for a position for this primary school principalship. And yeah, they were going to kind of let me lead this primary school. It was a crazy, crazy time.
Why the heck would they give you that sort of responsibility?
I ask myself the same thing every day. I look, I think at those stages, a lot of the teaching workforce was quite aging out there. I know that, over the 10 years or 15 years prior, a lot of the intake into the tertiary education in Australia was kind of slowing down on the education front, and they made a real big push for it. And so I was in that kind of uptake because they were essentially going to lose a huge portion of their workforce as teachers retired. And so with retiring teachers, retiring leaders, they needed, young, fresh blood to come in and kind of make the next generation of leaders. So I think that was kind of their angle. And I was able to kind of do all the technology stuff, the things that they couldn't do, which was really exciting for them, implementing all their new programs and government funding and things like that.
Speaking of tech, you kind of, instead of going down the principal route, you ended up working at some pretty cool companies, including Buffer, which I think keeps growing and growing. And so many people in the content marketing and social media space are familiar with. How was your experience at Buffer?
My favorite job that I've ever had. The funny, crazy timeline there is, I was in like the interview process for the school principal role. They had showed me the house they were going to give me. They had said, "This is the car we'll give you." That's how deep I was in the process. And while traveling around, I was like blogging, doing like the ed tech kind of stuff, and I was using Buffer to share all my content, to my social profiles and whatever. And I saw this little box in the top corner. It said, "We're hiring." And I was just a little bit curious and I clicked on it. Oh man, my brain just exploded. I was like, what do you mean unlimited vacation? They're going to give you like a free MacBook and like, two of these annual retreats, and like salary was just incredible because they have like the transparent salary. I was like, wow, I'm going to apply for this. Like just for fun. Like, it's this company that I never even thought I would get into. And turns out they were desperately in need of someone in the APAC time zone, the Australia Pacific time zone, to take over customer support. And it was just a divine timing. I had to go back into the interview with all the principals and leadership and say, "Hey, look, I got another opportunity." And I framed it as a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's what it felt to me. And they said, "We'll give you a year, go try it and see how it goes. You've got to pursue this. If it's not what you want, you can always come back and your position will pick up where we left off." So that was like the most, I'm so grateful for them to do that, but I never turned back. Buffer taught me so much about remote working, company culture, transparency. It taught me so much about marketing, and then also the tech side of it, getting deeper into the APIs and the engineering was just a really fascinating couple of years for me. And I would have stayed there, to be honest, Max. Like that was going to be my goal, was to stay with Buffer. I was eventually going to immigrate to the United States, with the support of Buffer. And so I started going traveling, right? And I thought, let's go travel and get used to this real proper remote digital nomad style life. Went to Bali as my first stop, and I met my, then met this girl who became my girlfriend, and now she's my wife, like three and a bit years later. So yeah, it was like a crazy turn of events in history.
That's why you can never go to Bali, because you just meet someone amazing and it changes your life. I mean, that sounds miserable. But what was the school staff's reaction when they think you're going to take this job and you're like, I'm really passionate about this, but also, social media, there's something about this social media space that just keeps calling my name and pulling me in that direction.
Yeah, well, I think I saw the opportunity, like doing like the education tech work with Google and Microsoft, and that really opened my eyes to like the SaaS and startup space. I'd already always been, just a reader of Peter Thiel and all those guys. Listen to the Masters of Scale podcast, like just into that Silicon Valley kind of zone. Just piqued my interest, and I knew that I could make a pretty big impact in this kind of area. I understood how to market and sell to people, and I had like the tech background to go with it, and it just felt like a really seamless process, and it was exciting. The where I come from in Australia, my town only had like 7,000 people in it, man. It was tiny. And so when you kind of share this app or this experience, this product with someone, that they most of them didn't even know what it was. They're still looking up the phone book to get their hairdresser's number. So it was just a huge big world of opportunity for me. My parents were super nervous. They were like, "Well, what are you doing? You're throwing away all your education, you're going to the school principal, like you're crazy." But they were really supportive in the end, and it worked out for the best. Absolutely.
It's funny because I think growing up as a student, like if a parent hears that their kid is going to the principal's office, it's often, "Oh no, what do they do?" But in your case, it was applying for a job. So quite
Yeah.
the turn of events there. But it's so amazing that you came from such a small town like that and literally now have traveled the world and like are able to run your business from all over the world. So that's amazing, just growth story there.
Cheers, man.
Of course. Yeah, I think we can wrap up there. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it was a good chat.
So let's get to online course creation. And you've done this yourself and you've helped so many clients seeing just amazing results from the creation and launch and continuation of their online course. You have your online course creators hub. Where were you first exposed to online courses?
Yeah, great question. The inspiration through that path in kind of the entrepreneurial side, and I would say like the online education economy in general, was when I met my girlfriend in Bali. When I met her, she was this business coach. I'd never heard of such a thing. I was like, what the hell is a business coach? Like, what do you mean people pay
Yeah,
you?
like where does sports come into play here?
Yeah, it's like, where's your whistle? Like, where's your clipboard? And I was just completely blown away because she was definitely on the uptick, after kind of only being at the business for a few months, and I was just blown away that people could sell their knowledge at scale. And I thought, wow, like I'm a teacher, like I can actually do something here. And one of the biggest hurdles that I found initially was people didn't have the technical skills to get their course online and sell it. So, thinking about apps and course hubs and automation and all of that, all of those things. And that's kind of where I first started, Max. I was actually I first started building it, like I was doing all the work, and then I kind of migrated over to kind of an agency model, and we would like build everything from the ground up. Now we're super lucky; we have apps like Thinkific that's just like a point and click, and you're ready to go in like 20 minutes. You up and can sell it straight away. So a lot's changed since when I first kind of jumped into it, but that was kind of my first eye-opening experience of the opportunity there.
And how was that first experience creating a course? Because it's one thing, like, I think so many things in the marketing space, it sounds really easy, whether it's a podcast or a course or even a video series. Like, the concept can sound somewhat simple and you might have a strong idea behind it. But once you actually like get into the thick of it and start doing it, you kind of get slapped in the face by the difficulties of any of those mediums. How was your experience creating that first course you did?
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's a steep learning curve, isn't it? It's so much opportunity and what would you say, promise, out of it. There's a lot of momentum. You're like, yeah, I can do this course. I'll just record a few videos, pop it up, and Bob's your uncle. But
Exactly. That's it.
there's,
By the way, Bob's your uncle is like one of my favorite references in the world.
oh, really?
I think you now are my second guest to say that. So you've joined a
Nice.
very prestigious company there.
Excellent. The ironic thing is, I actually do have an uncle, Bob. It's Bob is short for Robert in Australia, so his name's Robert, but
Yeah.
everyone Bob. So yeah, Uncle
Oh
Bob.
my
And
God.
he
This
owns.
is a dream come true.
Yeah, this is amazing. So back to what I was saying. Yeah, it wasn't too bad, too hard for me because, mate, when you're in a classroom of 30 hormonal, energetic, excited, preteen teenagers who you're trying to get to do work, and they've got every distraction under the sun. Like, you learn how to kind of manage that classroom and facilitate learning and create a really fun, environment where they're engaged and they're getting that rapport and those kind of affirmations that they're doing well. So that's exactly what I pulled on. I understood that I couldn't talk to these people who were taking the course directly, but I could still engineer and manufacture, the learning process in an online format. So I don't know if you've ever kind of presented live or taught in workshops, but you ask kind of rhetorical, or non-rhetorical questions and get some kind of audience feedback. You get them to engage. I mean, you don't have that capacity in an online course setting. So you really need to be diligent about creating those kind of relationships and those engagement points to keep them at the screen. Because that's what I realized, there are so many different distractions when people take an online course. The likelihood that they will finish it, some reports say that it's like 93% of people never finish an online course. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's the definition of a steep learning curve.
Exactly, right? So you've got to be able to kind of create an experience that's going to retain them and lead them to success.
Before you even get started with an online course, how do you coach your clients in how to simplify the process or how to view things? Because I think it's really easy to get overwhelmed right away. How do you even, when you're kind of in that prep phase and planning phase, how do you approach that?
Yeah, man, I've got a couple of good rules of thumb that I kind of share all the time. The first major one is don't build your course. Like, don't build a thing. Don't record anything. Don't touch any technology until you've validated that people want to buy the course. I see so many questions in, my group, in like the, Thinkific course group, like everyone's saying, hey, I've built my course. I'm really excited. Now, how do I sell it? And that's so tricky. That's like having a dead asset. That's like having something you've put your love and time and energy and, investment into, and you're not even sure if someone wants to buy it. So I think it needs to be reversed. I think you need to know that you have people willing and ready to purchase the course, who knows what it is, knows how it can help them, that you've got them on a wait list. Maybe you've pre-sold it to them first before you go and actually record content. That's going to save people a ton of heartache in the long run. As you get better at it and as you build a more substantial online education business, then you can go and actually pre-record it, because you've got an established audience, your market, you understand how you can help them. But I think if you're just kind of getting started, validate it. And make sure that you have people that have signaled, they've said, yeah, sign me up. This is awesome. I really want this.
How do you go about validating it?
Super simply, find your ideal student. So find the person that you want to take through your course, let them know what the course is going to help them to do, and ask them to put in their name and email just in a wait list. Say, hey, is this something you're interested in? If it is, pop in your name and email and I'll let you know when it's ready to launch. That's like the basic signal of validation of like, hey, this is something that I want. If you're not getting any names and no one's signing up, no one's replying to your posts, no one's sending you any messages about it, that's a pretty clear sign that you've got no one to sell it to. Like no one actually wants what you're creating. There's two steps that are about the same. So to pre-sell it, to say, hey, I'm launching a course. It's going to be ready in 2 weeks' time for a special, pre-sale bonus. I'm selling it for 50% off, and get people to pay you, half the money or, 25% of whatever the course sale is, to kind of say, yep, I'm in. And then you've actually got paying students before you've actually created the course. And then the third way would be to kind of do a beta launch model. That's where you basically get a handful of people to take them through the course live. So instead of pre-recording the modules and the lessons, if it's the first time you've ever done this topic, the first course you've ever done, you really want that feedback. You want them to be able to share with you their experiences, where they've dropped off, what questions they have, because you take note of all that with that first tiny little cohort that comes through. And then when you go to re-record it, you've addressed all of their objections, all the problems, you've kind of refined it so that the course, the flagship course, when you launch it properly, you've not only got it all kind of cleaned up, but you've also got testimonials and, case studies from people who've already gone through it, which are amazing for the sales.
Yeah, I think that's so key. And the research and prep phase and validation early on, that clearly goes a long way. Testimonials, I mean, that's something that can apply whether you're working on a course or whether you're launching a new business or just, your website. It goes such a long way to see those testimonials there and have that social proof. When you look at course creation, like the creation aspect, what are some best rules of thumbs, or we'll call them Bob's your uncles, about actually creating the course?
I would say keep it simple. One thing that people try to do when they create the course content, they try and cram in as much information as they possibly can, because there's this kind of not delusion, but there's this belief that the more stuff that's in the course, the more valuable it is. Makes sense, right? You get more in it and that's more value. But in terms of online education and online courses, that's not necessarily the case. Because what happens is students will come into your course and they won't really know how to implement everything. They're going to get pulled in a few different directions, and the likelihood that they will get to that transformation or result on the other side that they had expected when they enrolled in the course starts to deteriorate rapidly. So instead, the way I define it is you want to curate your content. It's like you're, museum curator. You only want to pick the articles and the resources, the pieces, the steps in their process that are going to get them from point A to point B. Anything else that is not explicit towards that path, leave it out. You can always use that as bonus content or as a lead generator or as a mini course, something like that. It's still valuable. But if we're talking about a course, the whole purpose is to take someone from where they are, in their skills or knowledge or learning process, and move them to where they want to be at the other side. And between those 2 points are just incremental steps. We have to crawl before we walk, before we run. It's the same in courses. What are the incremental steps that someone would need to take to get them, from where they are to where you want them to be at the end of the course?
And that progression there is so important. And when you're creating these courses, I know there's a wide variety of different courses you can have. There's a wide variety of, how much you want to invest into the actual production and the equipment behind it. What would you say is kind of at least like the minimum level of, camera, microphone, like what sort of gear you want to have to make sure that this course has at least real solid quality?
I think that one thing to remember is people, as a course creator, if you're going to build your course, people aren't buying your course for the production value. They don't necessarily care about what soft boxes you have, what latency your microphone has, what kind of resolution, at what, frame rate your camera is going at.
I'm judging you by the exact pixel here.
Exactly. Yeah. Down to the DPI, like just the nanometer. But, I think that that's really empowering for people to hear, because some people use that as a procrastination tool, or like they kind of stall it because they're like, oh, I don't have a good enough camera. Oh, I don't have good enough lighting. Oh, XYZ isn't ready. I would say, done is better than perfect in the online course space. As long as you have a nice, quiet environment, people can hear you very clearly. The visuals, I think a mix of talking head, which can come straight out of your laptop camera, and slides as you narrate over the top of them, I think is quite complementary, because people get to see this talking head. They get to see your, cues, your visual cues, your rapport, your emotions, and that really helps with the learning process. And then additionally, that kind of slide deck just for, key learning moments and key turning points, any actionable tasks, things like that, diagrams help the visual learners to see, because they can visually look at the words or the diagrams and things like that. I would say keep it nice and low key to begin with. If you are going up into, something that is more substantial, and you want to get into a much more professional quality, 2 things that really make a course pop is multiple camera angles. So usually talking head front onto the camera, and then if you have another camera 45 degrees off to the side that you kind of cut in between, what that does is it leaves the students seeing you as much more of an authority figure, because they step out of you're talking to me versus like I'm witnessing this authority figure teaching. I'm kind of learning more, and they kind of soak them into that learning environment a lot deeper. And even with that, I would still use visual cues like slides and, graphics, animations that pop up on the screen to help you illustrate what you're explaining and teaching. In every course, doesn't matter if you're filming it on a laptop camera, on your iPhone camera, which again, if you don't have a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, your, iPhone on a tripod. I mean, most iPhones now film in 4K, like you're laughing, you've got
Yeah.
everything you need there. So if you have just a good mix of mediums, I think that helps to keep the engagement nice and high.
It's funny you mentioned the multicam, like the multiple camera angles. I go to Podcast Movement, and this year, 2020, obviously, Podcast Movement was virtual this year. And Pat Flynn had an awesome keynote, and he had like, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 different camera angles. And it was so much more engaged. Like, it's funny because you think just having an extra camera or 2 wouldn't make that much of a difference, but when you're watching somebody that's like speaking to the screen and presenting on a topic for you, trying to teach you something, it's so much more engaging than you'd think to have those multiple camera angles. So I think that's like a really nice kind of way to spice it up a little bit. And in terms of the slides, how detailed do you want those slides to be?
They are supplementary to your learning content. I think that's a really good way of putting it. The slides are there just to supplement what you're teaching verbally and through the camera. Usually on a slide, it's a thought-provoking idea, it's a key phrase, it's a key concept, it's a picture or a visual stimulus. And if you're really in some kind of dense kind of knowledge or some kind of dense theory, mapping out a couple of of the dot points of those key concepts helps to distill that information quickly. Because as we're auditory, bringing it in through our ear auditory, we're listening to what they're saying. If we're also visually, reading those words, they kind of line up, and it helps to really set that into the brain, and it kind of creates a little place where you can wrap both of those concepts in together, and then it just becomes a lot easier to consume. Because courses, the thing with learning in real life, like in person, not in real life, but in person, is that
in fake life.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. You are kind of at the whim of the presenter, and they know how to pace the lesson. If there's people who are just scratching their head and got no idea, eyes are glazing over, they're checking on their phones, you've lost them. So we've got to kind of go backtrack and just slow it down a bit. You don't have that ability to do that in an online course, and someone will try and consume an online course as quickly as possible. They'll want to skip the activities, they'll want to skip lessons they think they know about, and they'll be like, I don't need to do this quiz, I'll go to the next one. And there is this drive that students have with courses. They want to get through as quickly as possible and kind of only skip through the things that they think they need. If you help to kind of stagger that learning process and give them really clear learning cues through, like I said, visual and the slides, it really helps them pace down and acknowledge what you're saying and reflect on it, which is part of that learning process.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that 93% of people don't even make it through the entire course, which is, that is a super intimidating number out of the gate there. Courses that have done it best as far as being super engaging and that people, want to see like every second of this course. What do they do best? What makes the difference between a successful course on that end versus something that is just super skippable?
Incentives and accountability would be the two pieces that make for a very, very successful online course at scale. So the incentives that drive people to stay in a course and kind of consume it and implement it and grow with it are, you see a lot of gamification techniques, like they gamify the experience. So you might see badges and point systems, little graphics to show you how far along the timeline you are. All of those little kind of hacks, I was going to say biologically, but I don't know if it's biologically, we are wired to want to kind of fill the circle. If it's stuck at 85%, we're going to work our little bums off to try and close that out to 100,
Yeah, you just fired me up. Like, I want that last 15% right now.
Exactly, and you're like, what do I have to do? What do you mean I missed a question? Go back, and try and find the question. And it becomes a mission. It's the journey, it's the game, Same with a point system. One of the most amazing versions I've seen of this is Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and Russell Brunson did like this massive program. I forget what it's called, like Millionaire Mastermind or something like that.
Yeah, I remember emails for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So every man and his dog was promoting that because they had a huge affiliation offer. And so they just tried to get thousands of people to become affiliates, which is what filled that program, on top of a lot of paid acquisition, of course. But inside the program, they had this really amazing structure. And that as you completed lessons, you got points. And as you accrued points, there was like you could call it a shop, an internal shop inside the course program where there were bonus content that had an attributed points value. And so you had to watch all of the content, and then you got to spend the points on the bonus or the bonuses that you wanted to see the most. And so you would have to earn your points by going through the content, completing all the coursework before you could then invest in and use the points for one of the bonuses. I thought that was one of the most innovative ways of using gamification that I've seen in a long time in the online course space. They did it so well.
Yeah, and just a little concept like that, when you bring it to life, it makes it so much more fun. It makes it, I know it's kind of cliche to talk about the gamifying stuff, but it just really works with humans for whatever reason.
Especially in learning, Max, especially.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you asked, like what keeps them? So one is the incentive and the next one is accountability. Mate, if in all types of learning, people are always going to have a question. No matter if you have the world's greatest course content, they're still going to get stuck somewhere along the line. That is the process of learning. And so having a group or a community alongside your course to help keep them on track, answer questions, give them extra learning materials, encourage them, support, gives them that kind of area, this community to hang out in, and they get that kind of support. But it also keeps them accountable because they see other people posting and they see other people contributing their thoughts. And so they think, wow, there's people actually doing this. I better get back in here. I better start chipping in my part and doing these activities. So I think those kind of 2 or 3 pieces are the most important.
Yeah, you don't want to be the slacker there. And on the marketing end, there's so many ways to market a course, and we could talk for hours and hours of this strategy, this strategy, this strategy.
Yeah.
But in terms of courses that you've worked on and your clients and what you've experienced firsthand, what approaches or tactics have led to some of the most successful launches or relaunches that you've seen?
One comes to mind. We did $277,000 in the first 24 hours of the course sales.
Holy moly.
And
Oh, you're talking about my course, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations.
that was fun. I forgot about that.
Yeah, feel free to send me my cut, mate. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So, and this was so successful because I'll explain why it was successful, and then I'll go into like the broader topic here. But it was really successful because he had an enormous audience. He is a very famous YouTube travel vlogger kind of thing who's got, I don't actually know, maybe millions of subscribers or a million. I don't know. He's got like a lot of YouTube subscribers. He has, hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers kind of thing. So he has this huge audience who just loves him and wants all these videos, wants all these content, got super fans. They've got a little tribe going. And, he reached out because he was like, I really want to monetize my audience, because up until then, he's just been selling, preset packs and LUTs packs, like, video kind of filters. And like little ebooks. That was like the extent of what he'd done. The reason why the launch was so successful is because we created this anticipation and excitement through a campaign on his YouTube channel, through Instagram, and obviously on email. We grabbed the wait list, again, we got the signal like, hey, here's what I'm going to be launching. Here's how it's going to help. And if you want to know about it, jump on the wait list. And then once they got on the wait list, we said, hey, by the way, now you're here, we've given you a little bit of a bonus, like a secret bonus. And we gave them a little tiny little discount on the course. And we just nurtured that audience over about a week or two. And then when we finally dropped it, like people were just DMing him like 2 days before, like saying, when is it coming? When is it coming? Please let me know as soon as it comes. Because we had a nice, like a rapid fire bonus. We capped like the first 100 people got some extra bonus kind of thing. The first 100, that launch was just crazy. Like there was just a sale ticking over, like every minute, like every couple of minutes, like it was wild. The reason why, again, that was successful is because of the audience. And I think that's kind of the lesson to take here in what makes a course launch successful. Before you've got, the enormous profitability, you've got monthly recurring revenue, your team and infrastructure to support you. And before you go into like paid acquisition, organic is the model to go for. I think if you build a following and an audience of your ideal students, get to know them, build those relationships, then you have someone to sell to. Your validation is kind of done for you. I always say that, Facebook ads are not a replacement for a marketing strategy. I think they're an accelerant. So unless you can sell it organically, through a post or, on your own channels, you're gonna have a hard time selling it through Facebook ads. In all of the launches, there is always some kind of event, whether that be a masterclass or a live training series or a challenge, something that really gets the audience of hot leads, your most excited portion of your audience, really keen for your course. You get them all together and you give them value. You bring them in, teach them what they want to know, and then pitch the course and follow up with them from there. That's the most rudimentary, easy way that I can think to explain it. Like you said, we could spend days talking about launch strategies and marketing principles when it comes to selling courses, but in a nutshell, that's probably a pretty good summary.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think the one point I'm really wondering about though is like for those of us that don't already have, like millions of followers, millions of, YouTube subscribers, is it still possible to create an online course without already having like that diehard following to begin with? A successful online course.
Of course. See
Oh,
how,
of
see what I
course.
did there
See,
with those words?
yeah, that
Yeah,
was nice.
I like
Bob's your
that.
uncle.
Of course. Yeah, Bob's your uncle. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Like, if you want to make 10 grand selling online courses, all you need to find is 10 people who will give you $1,000 for your course. That's 10 people in your entire list that you can help whether it's podcasting or whether it's, starting the business or getting LinkedIn, profile optimized or whatever, or that's 20 people at $500. The numbers aren't enormous to get a really good result. A lot of people have this holy grail in the online course world. They say, I want to get to 10K months. Not many people understand that 10K months is revenue, not profit, and within that revenue, there's a lot of team expense and time and maybe some advertising to get there. But the numbers don't have to be super high. And if you don't have a large audience, again, going back to what I said about the validation, you just need to find your ideal students and get them into a list or a community where they're showing interest to your course. So again, if you are, teaching people how to start and build a podcast and grow it or whatever, you've got to think like, what's the value to them in the business? Is it worth, $49 to sell on that? No way. It's worth way more. Like they can't even buy a microphone for $49, right? It's worth so much more.
There are
than
some
that.
options. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're like, well, there are some light options.
There's actually an exactly $49.
And here is my Amazon link. But what I mean is that courses are priced on the value that it will give, to someone once they have completed it. So if your course helps people start and monetize their podcast and they can expect, $1,000 a month coming from their podcast over 12 months, that one course is going to be worth $12,000, right? So you wouldn't charge them $12,000 for the course. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying that relative to what the value is that they'll get out of it, it doesn't make sense to sell them the course for $27, right? Because inherently they're just you undervalue your content and they undervalue how that course is going to be able to help them. So that's kind of like a little thing on pricing there. But if you had a course that's $500, $1,000, both very good price points for courses, and it doesn't take much to creep those numbers up. That's 10 to 20 people at either price point to get you up to a $10,000 5-figure launch.
That's such great advice. I think it makes it so much less intimidating when you look at the numbers from that angle and just think, hey, this could be something for, just focus on your first 10 people or your first 20 people. Like you don't have to be like, oh my God, how am I going to get 1,000 people to buy this thing? So that's super helpful.
One thing that comes to mind there, if I gave you 1,000 course, enrolled course members tomorrow, I said, here's your course, bang, here's 1,000 paying members. Most people wouldn't have the infrastructure to handle that. How many emails can you answer about no login, no access? How many posts can you answer in your group? What about all the tech problems? Are all the lessons ready? Like there is so much that goes into exactly, right? And so I would say again, like focus on the first 10, get the offer validated. Once you deliver an outstanding result and an outstanding experience for those first 10, you have 10 diehard fans who are going to go on and buy your next course and your next program. They then become evangelists of your course, right? They're going to tell other people about how good it was. You can use their testimonials and their case studies to share. And you've got a proof of concept now. And if you charge them $1,000 each, you've now got 10 grand revenue, sitting in your bank to then go and look at, okay, I need a copywriter. I might get someone who might do some graphic design. And then we do the second launch. And now we've got a bit of a bigger audience. We've got a copywriter on board. So all of your copies, just absolutely beautiful. Your sales page is now designed professionally and it's just incremental. So over like a 3-month period, your first 10 people, you might have 50 extra people after 3 months, 50 at, $1,000. That's a pretty fun paycheck in 3 months, right?
It's also pretty fun to have a podcast when you know that somebody else is taking care of the stuff that takes a ton of time in the podcasting space, and you can get back to running your business how you love to run it. I've saved tons of time for busy business owners turned podcasters, and I can do the same for you. Email me at max@maxpodcasting.com. Now, back to Paul on why the world is his oyster. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's get into inspiration and creativity. And what stands out to me about your background is, of course, how you've really embraced this nomadic lifestyle and moved around, lived in so many cool places. I mean, met your wife in Bali, just like everybody in the world has. So often in this segment, people talk about travel. So from your end, I wanted to hear what has allowed you to create this life and what tips do you have for anybody that does aspire to go down more of that digital nomad track?
Financial security, and that is paramount. I couldn't imagine traveling where and being worried about money. I think that would have really taken away from the experience. I think knowing that you have either a job, a remote job with a company that's fully remote, which is now more common, right? There's nothing wrong with getting a job. Like, I loved working for Buffer. I loved being a teacher. Like, they were two incredible jobs. So if you have a remote company, that's an amazing opportunity there to capitalize on, to go and travel the world, because you do your work, you're going to get your paycheck, and you get to go and travel to cool places on the weekends and the afternoons and nights. So that would be the first one. Make sure you got financial security. I would say be really diligent with your organization and your time. So my calendar, I treat that like it's biblical. If there's something in my calendar, I do it, and if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. Down to the point where, if you're an entrepreneur and you run your own business, before I even had a team, I would set aside marketing meetings and, accounting meetings for myself, so that, on a Friday afternoon, I'd go through all the expenses and revenue and profit, and track everything and make sure that that's up to date, so that, taxes and everything are all still fine. On Mondays, I'd go through the marketing meeting and look at my content plan and what needs to happen. So I treat the calendar so kind of religiously and diligently, and that helps me to kind of have the freedom of time, because if I can chunk down what I need to do and map it all out, then in the free time, I'm not kind of stuck there, half working, half not working. If I'm working, I'm on. And if I'm not working, I'm completely off. I'm out traveling and exploring. Now we've got a dog here in Edinburgh. And her name is Bonnie. So I'll take Bonnie out for a walk and, go to the gym or something. It's just being able to kind of divide your time. And if you're traveling through new cities, every week or every couple of weeks, you want to go and see as much as possible. You also still have to run your business, or,
Yeah,
work in your company.
you might need to work a little bit.
Exactly. So just being able to balance that is super important.
And you mentioned walking your dog or going to the gym. In addition to that, are there any main hobbies that you have that no matter where you are in the world, you find time for?
I've always liked exercise and gym kind of thing, and I struggle big time when I'm traveling. I find it so hard to get motivated to go down to the hotel gym. Like, we've been so grateful and lucky to have been able to travel into some of the nicest hotels around the world, and they have incredible gyms down there. And even then, I'm like making excuses as to why it's okay to have a glass of champagne for breakfast. Like, he's like, "Yeah, I'm on holidays," but really you're not, because your whole life is a holiday. So what I did, I had to hire a remote personal trainer to keep me accountable. And like, he would write programs for me, and I would go down, I'd film the gym on the first day as we check in, and I'd send him the message. I'll say, "Here's the video of all the equipment." And then that night he would have a program for that particular gym and that gear. And that helped me stay on track. And then the other thing I like to do is I really, really enjoy podcasts and listening to podcasts when I am.
Really?
Yeah, fun fact. But I really enjoy it while I'm walking, not while I'm working or training. I have to actually be focused on the podcast. So I'll either go out for a walk and have a look at stuff. I'm a terrible photographer, but I love taking photos. Like, I just enjoy the concept of like picking up my phone and like snapping a photo and trying to make it look good with a filter. That really brings me a lot of joy. So I do that around cities and places we visit while I listen to podcasts, and that's a really nice zen downtime for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously all about the podcast space, but one thing I've learned firsthand is, I mean, it definitely depends what you're working on, whether it kind of is a natural fit to listen to podcasts at that time or whether it's just too distracting. But if you do have any interest in becoming a podcast producer, you literally listen to podcasts while you work. So that's the magical thing I've stumbled upon.
Nice. That's awesome.
So let's get to a fan favorite segment called the Wild Business Shout Out of the Week.
The Wild Business Shout Out of the Week.
Wild Business Shout Out of the Week. This is where we talk about a campaign advertising approach that caught our attention. And Burger King did something that I think most brands in the world would be like, why the hell would they do that? You mind taking us through that?
Yeah, so Burger King over here in the UK released a tweet or a image across all their social media profiles, had their Burger King branding all over it, and then the first line, big bold letters, is "Order from McDonald's," full stop. And the rest of the passage, it's super quick. So it just says, "We never thought we'd be asking you to do this, just like we never thought we'd be encouraging you to order from KFC, Subway, Domino's Pizza, Pizza Hut, Five Guys, blah blah blah, etc." Right? And so what they're trying to do is say, with COVID and lockdowns and restaurants and businesses, struggling to get people in the door now, they made this kind of social good campaign to promote their competitors. And it went off so well for them. It looked like such a courageous act. It built brand loyalty. It got so much viral traction. And then all of the other companies that they kind of tagged and mentioned and things like that, then kind of chimed in on it, as Twitter does with your big like retweet trains and like reply comments. And it really sparked a lot of joy across the UK and Europe. I think the original campaign actually came out of Burger King, France, and it was done in French. So there's a fun fact. And it was a French advertising agency who came up with the concept. And then Burger King was obviously the English speaking one, and that kind of took off a little bit more. But it was just such an amazing campaign, so ballsy, and it worked so well.
Yeah, all for ballsy campaigns. But my former guest, Robin Kennedy, who actually they're the ones who talked about Bob's Your Uncle. So this is really coming full circle. They talked about zigging when everybody is zagging. And this is like one of the best examples I've ever heard of that, because the food space, the restaurant space, the fast food space is so competitive and everybody's like just vying for attention left and right. It takes a really, as you said, ballsy approach to be like, hey, eat at our biggest competitor. Like that's that's just crazy, but it's something that is really, really memorable, and it's a great example to talk about. So it's obviously paid off for them. All right, let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A here. Let's get wild. What is the longest flight you've ever been on?
Oh, I think it was in the 20 hour mark, probably from Sydney over to LA, I think it was. Yeah, it was a long one.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly. It definitely was a long one. You grew up in a town of 7,000 people. What's been the biggest adjustment from growing up in a small town to exploring some of the biggest cities in the world?
People have teeth outside of my town. No, I would say just the I would say just the architecture and the scale of people. That has been like the biggest adjustment and the biggest eye-opening thing that I've really experienced.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention the incisors and bicuspids and wisdom teeth there. But and then what is a weird talent or like a party trick that you have? Something that you are really good at, but really doesn't have any impact on your business?
I play music. Like I'm a pretty good musician. I sing
Oh, yeah?
a lot, yeah, and I play guitar and a little bit of piano. Actually, lots of instruments. But yeah, music is my hidden talent.
That is a wonderful talent to have. And I'm sure your wife is either very thankful or is like, all right, Paul, just stop playing music for now.
Yeah.
But, well, Paul, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for all your tips and sage advice and lessons, as well as references that I just am beating to the ground. But thank you so much for coming on. Where's the best place for people to connect with you personally as well as your business?
Yeah, so my business is me personally. That's the beautiful thing about creating the business that you want. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook at the Paul Thomson. So ThePaulThomson. And my website is the same, thepaulthomson.com. So go to any of those three and you'll find all the ways to access me and kind of chat and reach out. And I'm always up for helping course creators. My DMs are forever filling up, and I just love kind of dropping a voice memo and sharing. So if there's anyone that needs any help, just reach out.
Perfect. All about going down in the DMs, and those voice memos are magical. And last thing here, final thoughts. It could be a quote, a line, kind of a motto you have, whatever you want. Send us off here. Stage is yours.
Do what you love. Like that's pretty much what I've been doing, for the last few years, just following what's really sparking joy. And especially in the online course space, to be able to do what you love, one way to facilitate that is to teach people what you love to do. And that way you get the financial reward, you get to help other people, and you're in service, and you get to do what you love. So that's my final parting wisdom.
Love that I do. Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing your stories and tips and the name of your uncle. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning into another episode. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite app and tell a friend about the podcast. You can also find us on Good Pods, and you can learn more about podcast production at MaxPodcasting.com. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!